Welcome to the round table. I am Jennifer Eller, and with me today are my amigos.
Co-host. Yeah, she kept changing it up.
That's the only Spanish word I know. So
that is not true. You know other Spanish words.
Sí, señor, señorita, but that's probably
Baño.
What's
Fiesta.
that?
Bathroom.
Oh no, I don't know that, but that's good to know.
You know Spanish?
No.
Zapatos, shoes.
Well, I know some things in
There
Spanish.
you go.
Well, Dan.
Did you hear that? Library, clear back there. Biblioteca, the library.
I know some words in Spanish.
Yeah.
If I go to a Spanish-speaking country, I'm going to take you with me, Dan. So we have Mike Hill, and then our producer today is Dan Smelser.
Make sure you put switch it. Everybody see you? There's Big Dan.
And our guest today is Geri Castro. Yay!
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, do you watch any shows? Binge watch TV shows, movie watcher?
Yep.
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
of
cook
show?
a lot, and that when I'm cooking, I will like prop up my iPad, or when I'm doing laundry. Now I'm the only person in my house that I only do my laundry, and I'm terrible at it. My husband fired me from doing his laundry a long time ago. He's like, "Listen, I got this. I'll take care of it." So I only do my laundry, and I don't do that well. I always hate putting it away, or folding it. So usually when I have laundry, why am I telling this to so many people?
What was the fireable offense? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I think he just got tired of he's we're very different. He's the calm to my storm. He's very organized. He's a machinist.
Okay.
And so he's very particular. He has routines, and he wants to have his stuff where he wants his stuff. So he wasn't mad or anything. He's like, "Listen, I got this." So,
But he doesn't
like,
do your
take it.
laundry.
No, I don't want him to do my laundry. I have delicates. Like, he's going to shrink my sweater.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that too anymore. I hang up a lot of things to dry. So
Yeah.
You're afraid what?
Well,
Shrink?
I buy a lot of my clothes from my boutique that I really like, and so it's like I don't put things in the dryer a lot anymore.
Yeah, and
so
women's clothes are made of...
bless you.
God bless you.
Wow.
Women's clothes are made of a lot of synthetic stuff that you can't really...
Yeah, so I'm always afraid
in
when
the
someone puts
dryer.
something in the dryer. It's like, oh golly, what was in there? So I get that. I do get that.
So you cook a lot out of necessity, or
Yeah.
or
we
just like
don't
to?
eat- Both.
Okay.
I don't like the dishes, but I mean, I have 3 teenage boys, so they eat a ton.
Got it.
And they're like athletic. Well, 2 of the 3 are athletic, and they like to bulk, and they play football.
Okay.
And they're homeschooled, so they kind of eat like breastfed babies, where they
Yeah.
want to eat every 2 hours.
Yeah, right. That's what I was wondering. Yeah, I didn't know your
So
kids.
I cook a lot. I like cooking, not so much the clean, but that's when I will get on my iPad and watch.
Do you binge watch cooking shows?
No,
Oh.
I should though. Like,
So what do you
I watch-
binge watch?
so I've seen The Office like 3 times all the way
Yes.
through. Like, I just love The Office.
Me too.
That's what Trevor's watching, so we're watching a lot of The Office right now.
Yeah.
Do you like The
evenings.
Office?
It's okay. There's others. Yeah, it's fine. I'll sit there and watch some
It's
of it.
okay.
It's okay.
I also like reality TV. It's bad.
Survivor?
I've watched every season, every episode of Survivor.
Yes.
And I'm not a huge fan of the newer ones, but yeah, I mean, over years. We're talking years.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay.
I like that kind of stuff.
So what kind of hobbies do you have?
I'm currently into plants. So for about 3 years now. When I lived in California, I could not keep a plant alive to save my life. My mom has always been into house plants and stuff and gardening. I could never do it, but I can do it here for some reason. I mean, I have a lot of things to learn because I have a plant right now dying, and I can't figure out why.
Maybe it's at the end of its life.
No, it's new.
Huh? Oh. Well, maybe it has a...
It's a calathea, and I hear that they're very persnickety, and I just really need to figure out what she needs because the girl's not
a
happy.
calathea.
Calathea, yeah.
And it's a she.
Yep. Most of my plants are girls.
Yeah, that's why they're dying. That's why they're persnickety.
She
If
is.
it's a woman, it's persnickety. Right? Isn't that how it goes?
Some of us more
Dan?
than others.
Come on, Dan, help me out. Yes, persnickety women.
Persnickety, yeah.
Yeah, they're just finicky. Yeah.
You're not getting any brownie points today. You might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So, yeah.
Yeah. So you're from California.
Yes.
You moved here in 2018. So what do you miss about California?
My family, my mom is there. 2 of my siblings are there, so I really, really miss them. But I miss the mountains. Like I thought I would miss I'm a Northern California girl, although I was born in Nevada. I'm a Northern California girl through and through. And Northern California people are different than Southern California people. So
Meaning good, bad.
I'm both. I mean, we're just really different. Like in Southern California, you can go jump in the ocean and you can swim, but in Northern California, you're gonna need a suit because it's freezing.
Okay.
So the water climate is way colder in the Northern Pacific area. But yeah, I mean, we still go to the beach, but you'll get fog and you can get in a little bit, or you can. I mean, people surf, but you have to be like prepared to do that. So
is the whole stereotype that the majority of people from California are nutty, liberal, crazy people true?
well, I refer to myself.
I said majority. I didn't say you.
I'm going to talk about myself. But no, I call my family and I California refugees.
Okay. Okay.
I think there's a lot of Christ-loving, conservative Christians in California spread throughout. There was always a lot of talk the last few years about like part of California like splitting off. But when you have these big cities, you know, they win the votes. So, but yeah, it's a hot mess over there.
But that's what everybody sees or hears, you know. So everybody's not from California is like, just let that.
We really made a decision that we needed to leave, and it took us 2-3 years to get there. We thought we were going to go to Washington, but Washington State kind of turned into a second California, and the housing market blew up. So we're like, well, and then the Lord was just like, no after no after no for jobs. So the Lord just kind of directed us here.
To Indiana.
Yeah.
Wow, God.
So
I know, why would you come here?
I get that question all the time.
Well, there's a lot of California transplants in Huntington, and I always ask the same.
In Huntington?
Well,
where are you at?
Gina,
People, let's chat.
like that whole family, they're all from California.
Well, no, they were born here, and then she moved to California, I think. I don't think they're from, that's where she raised her kids, where she had her kids. And then
I don't
came
know.
Back,
it just seems like I talk to a decent
Yeah.
amount of people that are like, well, I came from California, and I'm like, to Indiana? Why Indiana? Like, out of all the places you could pick.
Right.
Because you could pick, right? Like,
Well, we wanted to go where my husband would have more job security. He's a machinist,
Okay.
and machining here is big.
Yeah.
So in California, he was machining parts for iPhones.
Oh.
Here, he's machining parts for orthopedic
yeah, so he's in the
surgeries
medical.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a lot more job security, you know, because in 2009, we were laid off. Like,
Okay.
when that economy was terrible, kind of like it is now. But my husband has better job security. So we knew we wanted that. But his mom is Midwestern. I mean, she was born in Ohio, kind of raised in Indiana for most of her life. But her dad was military, so they moved out to California in her teen years. So he has like distant cousins and some great uncles here that he kind of connected with on Facebook. And so we started looking into the housing market, and we knew it was one of the freest homeschooling states. There's like, because homeschooling in California is actually not legal. You either are public or you're private, and you have to like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in order to homeschool, you can do so with a public charter, which the majority of people who homeschool in California do it through a charter. But you're actually technically public school and getting funding. Some families are getting funding, but the schools are getting funding. So you have to file an affidavit and set up your own private school with the state.
Wow.
And then there's other regulations.
So that's what you did?
I did a charter for a little while, and it was just more loopholes to jump through, more obstacles. And one of the reasons I like to homeschool is because we like to do what we want.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily, but I gave that up and did.
So you've homeschooled forever?
Yeah, I've been homeschooling since 2009.
Okay. And your motivation was?
I am a product of the California public school system. It was awful. I struggled as a kid academically. And I'm almost positive I have adult ADHD. I think it's something I've always had. I just, there's so much information out there now. But we had my youngest son tested a few years ago, and I was doing, the questionnaires and everything. I'm like, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. And recognizing all these patterns, I know that I have it now. But that wasn't something we talked about when we were younger, right? So I struggled, and then not having the family support of any kind really, it was just hard for me in school, and I knew that I wanted something different for my kids. And I was a baby Christian. Let's see, I got baptized when I was pregnant with my firstborn. Because he was born 13 months after we got married. So I was a baby Christian, and I just knew from the get-go that's what I wanted. And my aunt-in-law was a homeschooler and a teacher. So, we've always done that.
Yeah, good.
Well, there was a lot of stuff right there.
Oh, I know. I was going to keep asking questions, but I thought maybe you still have a list of.
No, you are more. You can go ahead if you want to.
Well,
You have something?
so you said when you were growing up or in the school system, didn't have support. Meaning, like, so what was your family life growing up? Like, was your family Christian?
I'm a first-generation Christian.
Really?
Yeah. So my mom and dad divorced for the second time by the time I was 18 months.
Do what? For the second time?
Yes.
Meaning, like, they divorced, got back together, and divorced again?
I mean, I'm just a baby, so I didn't know, but that's the story that
Yeah,
I've been
no,
told.
for sure.
Wow.
Second time and the final time by the time I was 18 months. And so my mom, being the strong woman she was, she separated and just was single mom in it forever. But she also struggled with alcoholism really badly, and my dad was absent. I mean, he paid child support, like the bare minimum. My mom never, took him to court. So he, me and my brother got $150 a month for the entirety of our childhood. So, yeah, she would work and be drunk, and my younger years were just not super awesome.
So are you an only child? Did you have older siblings, younger siblings?
There's 7 of us all together
Okay.
with so me and my mom, from my mom, I have one whole brother. So just one full blood sibling. Then I have a baby sister with her. She's 12 years younger than me. And then through my dad, who, by the way, was married 5 times. And then he's like, forget it, I'm not getting married anymore.
I would say.
Just to show you kind of the extent of the craziness. He was in and out, didn't really visit or call much, really care much about us. But his third wife after us, so my mom was the second wife, and then Kelly, he had 3 kids with her. And so we visited a few summers, a handful of summers here and there. But he was mostly at work, and I'd be with my stepmom, which I really liked her. Of all his wives, I really loved her. We still
Out of
talk.
all of his wives.
I was just really curious if you had to, growing up, with your mom being an alcoholic, if you had to step up and take care of your siblings. Like, how old were you? Is that something you had to do?
So it was me and my brother and my mom for a long time. I was almost 12 when my baby sister was born. So my brother is older. Okay. So he probably had it harder than I did. But I remember a few mornings waking up and making my mom eggs and taking it to her. And I remember her forcing naps on me. She's clearly, I know now, she's clearly hungover. She wants me to nap.
Yeah.
So we're gonna nap, even though I'd rather not. And I'm 7.
Right.
So just those kinds of things. I think she also did the best that she knew how to do. She had a very broken, traumatic childhood. And she's now a Christian.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
She got saved 2 years ago. Wow. She had spirituality in her life, but it was through Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm not knocking it, but it was always a higher power, not necessarily God, not necessarily Jesus, but 2 years ago, Jesus really crashed through her heart, and it's just been amazing to see the healing that she's doing and the things I'm learning about my childhood. So
Through her healing.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because she's just her and her husband, my stepdad, they've been married for 24 years now, I think. That might be wrong. So, Mom, if you're watching it, sorry.
She doesn't. It don't matter. She
Yeah.
yeah.
My
dates.
stepdad, Chuck, he's like my dad. He's amazing. He came into my life when I was 14, and he's always been there. He's been a really great guy, role model figure, male figure in my life. But fortunately, at 14, I was just awful. So
You were awful.
that's my mom will say that before, from 13 and under, I was just the best kid. I wasn't like, I was lovely most of the time and obedient and just sweet, overly sweet or whatever she would say. But then I hit 13 and
Everything went south.
yep.
Is there a reason why? Do you like
I
friend
know now it was
influences?
because I was a girl with a hole in her heart looking for the love of my Heavenly Father. So I was looking for love and attention and acceptance in all of the wrong places and all of the wrong crowds, just desperate for that and feeling neglected, feeling abandoned. So, yeah, it was God that I was looking for.
Yeah, I just think I don't think enough people identified like that's the true reason of, because I've always said kids go crazy in middle school, some more crazy than others, but I do think it's the time where everybody's searching. You're trying to find your identity. You're trying to plug that hole, or you're trying to understand, what's going on in life. And if there is no other answer, it's the whatever the closest thing is, or whatever the most influential thing is in life tends to be, or whatever gives you the short satisfaction. You know what I mean? The thing that's going to make you most happy for, that amount of time. So then once you go into high school, is that when you met your husband?
Yeah. I met my husband in high school. We went to the same high school for, I think, a semester. But we met through a friend. He was a prodigal at the time. So we met. And
He's a prodigal, meaning he had been crazy and returned back, or he was like...
he was out, in his prodigal stage at that time. Yeah. So he grew up in Christian school. His dad was never... I don't think his dad was saved until right before he died. We lost him in 2020. Very distant father, yet his parents were always married, but he wasn't really, he always worked, or he was golfing, or in California we have casinos, or he would gamble. So he was hardly ever home and not very present, but a great provider. So he kind of had an absent dad as well. But his mom became a Christian when he was a baby, and got him, most of his educational background was in Christian private school until he got kicked out and went to public high school. So I think he started public high school in 10th grade.
Okay.
And we met when I was in 10th grade. So he's almost 2 years older than me.
Okay. So then once you guys meet, obviously Christ wasn't in the middle of it. You choose to get married. So how or what brought you guys back to, or was it you first and then him, or? It
was me first. So my mother-in-law led me to the Lord. We kind of started, I know it was while we were dating, because we dated for 3 years before we got married. Got married at 20. We had done a few Bible studies, and I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't even know about Noah's Ark. Like, when I tell you that God was not in my life, who doesn't know about Noah's Ark? But literally, I didn't know anything.
I think we would be surprised today how many young people don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're like our generation. Yeah, you'd seem everybody knows, but I would say that there is a generation of young people that don't know any of the stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was me. So it was kind of her planting seeds here and there as me and my husband Clarence became more serious, and I wanted him to move in with me, and he wouldn't, because we were almost 3 years dating, and he wouldn't move into me. I was renting a room out of my brother's house, and he wouldn't move in with me, and I'm like so offended. I'm like, where's this relationship going? It's going nowhere. And so we broke up. I didn't know it was like his good Christian values.
Yeah.
Him and his mom were like, no, we're not going to live with you. He had that value of, I'm not going to live with her before we're married. So we were engaged for 2 weeks, got married. Yeah. We didn't have a long engagement.
I think that's a great idea. Anybody listening, stop drawing it out. Just get married.
Yeah, we got married in his backyard.
Jeez, just ask her and go to the courthouse. Costs too much money for all these wedding venues.
Yeah, we got married in his backyard. My mom made some arrangements and a little cake.
See? That
Gosh,
quick. Just like that.
We had disposable cameras at my wedding. Like, remember that? Early 2000s.
Do they still have them? Disposable cameras? Is that
I
still
don't
a
think
thing?
I've seen them, no, unfortunately.
The Polaroid has
those are
made a
the-
comeback.
Yeah.
You see that, right?
Yeah, those are nice. Yeah.
That comeback.
But to answer your question, in our early marriage, he was still kind of, we had settled down a lot I had kind of totally separated myself from my high school friends. As I was settling down, I was working a couple of jobs. I was kind of more ready to cool out and settle down and step away from the party scene. So I had made a decision to really separate myself from a lot of my high school friends because some of them were getting into some heavy stuff. And I was like, that is not for me. And he kind of had this job that was at a retirement home, and it wasn't going to ever be serious. But, as we're married a couple years and he's still just doing that and it's not leading to anything and not really wanting to, I have to be careful. He told me not to say a whole bunch of things about our marriage. But anyway, we struggled in our younger years. He wasn't quite ready to settle down as much as you needed to when you had a family because 6 months into being married, we got pregnant.
Right.
And it was an act of God that we did not get pregnant before we were married.
Right. Yeah.
So 6 months in, we're having a baby, and he took it really well, but he just kind of wasn't ready to put some of those things down. And by 3 years in, almost 4 years in, no, 3 years, our second one came along. And we just really had a hard time. Things were coming to head, were being revealed, and we had to make a choice. He was either going to choose us or he wasn't, and I had to let him know that. I was ready to continue this on my own if I needed to, and he decided to choose me. So
Good choice, Clarence. Good choice.
yeah, we worked through so much. He did. He really has just become I say that he's like a fine wine, and he just gets sweeter with age and more handsome. He really is, just blows my mind. I think we worked through so many things, and we did mentorship, we did counseling, we did financial counseling, we did a bunch of work, and he was there for it. And it wasn't always easy. We'd have ups and downs. But by 10 years, we renewed our wedding vows, and I finally got my wedding dress and my pretty wedding that you said You're like, don't have it. I had it. I had that beautiful wedding at, not super expensive, but I got my white dress and a pretty venue at 10 years in. So that was awesome.
So again, you came to Christ, but then it was a while until Clarence got to that point, or?
Yeah, he said, I grew up in the church. I know the word. I know the Bible. I'm saved. He never thinks like he lost his salvation, but he wasn't just actively walking it out as much as I was. Because when I got saved, I joined the church, and I dug and just dove right into the church. And I started serving because ultimately I wanted to make friends. I wanted to be connected. And so I started serving a lot, and I got really involved with the church, and he was working. So it was always just me and the kids. And he didn't want to come to church because he left his private Christian school, Gothic. So he's really has some issues with organized religion. So his church attendance over the years was kind of back and forth, and especially the church that I was a part of for so long. Gosh, I want to say was it 13 years? I don't remember the numbers, but over a decade. He's like, I'm not going to that church. These people are Looney Tunes. I'm not going to do it. Because he would come every now and then. But he actually had to walk out of a service. He's like, I'm not doing this. I'm out.
So were you Looney Tunes?
Was I Looney Tunes?
Was your church Looney? I mean, was it just like charismatic or what?
Yes. So when I first got saved, it had been a well-known church. Of course, I don't know anything about religion or about Christianity or denominations. So I just like this church. This is my home. This is what we're doing.
It was a well-known church?
It was.
Oh.
But they went through a lot of transition where a lot of people left, more people would come, and they turned very charismatic. And they also ran more like a business where they were constantly asking for money. They would even do like public offering, and that's the service I think my husband walked out of, where they're like, okay, you're going to do another offering, and they had a chest at the altar, and they're like, whoever is running to give to the stand-up walk down, and my husband's like, no.
The stand-up walk down.
A chest.
And show everybody that you're giving to this offering. This is above your tithe that we've already talked about. And then at first, when I first got saved, like there were some ladies who would do Bible studies here and there. And yes, I did need to take more ownership of my education that I probably didn't. I was a young mom working on my stuff, so I didn't pursue that enough. But that church I was going to wasn't feeding me in a discipling way. They were hardly getting out the word. And I just found a lot of, we moved in 2018, we moved here. So about 3 years before we moved to Indiana, I started like getting a lot of red flags and a lot of like checks in my spirit and a lot of bitterness and anger toward my church. And I had to work through and even questioning God, because it was charismatic, bent now, and definitely money driven, but it was also prosperity gospel. They were not getting out the word, and they were like treating Jesus like the lottery ticket, like you know, you're gonna have Jesus in your life, and everything's gonna be good. And, you know, there's not going to be any sickness, and we're going to just pray all the sickness off of you, and they're going to have healing ceremonies, and people are like dropping out in the spirit and being drunk and carrying on. And, you know, you're going to have, the more you give, the more financial security you're going to have. And finances have always been hard for us. We are a single income home because it is homeschooling is what we've always said that we wanted to do. We've always been on the same page about that, and it's been a financial sacrifice. I don't have any degree, and I'm not going to go out there and make a ton of money. Yeah. But even two income, like even a small full-time income would be super helpful in our economy right now, which is ridiculous. I won't go there, but it's been a sacrifice to homeschool. So we, in California, the economy is crazy, and it has been forever. We just were never able to keep our heads above water, which is another reason why we really needed out. We are not one of those California families that sold their house and made $400,000 on it and came over here and were able to buy nope. Right. We came here with a savings account and 2 credit cards. Right. Like, and we just have been laying down roots. Yeah. And we bought a house in 2020 of all years. And we could never have done that in California.
So can you talk a little bit about, because I think it's important for the audience to realize, whether it's, you know, you said you had some trouble in your marriage early on and that you guys worked through things and now it's better, right? So one of the things I always encourage couples to do is, even before you're in trouble, work on your marriage. Like, try to figure out the things that are, even if they're small things, it's good to work on it, because if you continue to work, it will be like fine wine, right? Like everything just gets better compared to everything just stays the same, which is what you hear in a lot of marriages, right? We've been married for 25 years, right? We've been married for 30 years, and everything's we're still together, but nothing's really different. Right. Would that be fair to say? I mean, I just think that's what you hear that a lot of. It's just really the same, because there's nothing gets worked on or gets better. So you can exist and you can still love each other, but it isn't that we've grown closer together. So can you talk a little bit about what were some of the elements, not the problems, but what, like you said, mentorship or counseling, like what are some of the things that you guys did that other couples could pursue that would help in their marriage? And what was the biggest takeaway from it? Like, what did you learn the most?
We learned that it took work. I mean, honestly, we just had to grow up together. We were babies when we got married. I mean, I met him when I was 16. We were friends. We started dating. We were babies. I was 20. So just that commitment to each other. For me, it was about learning. So my pre-Christian days, I would be nice and kind and stuff, but if you made me mad, I was going to let you know. And then I became a Christian and I kind of became a doormat. And so learning about boundaries, and I had to seek help for myself first to realize, especially with the childhood, I had like no self-worth. So putting myself in counseling through the church and Christian self-help books like Keep Your Love On, the Boundaries series, Boundaries for Marriage is another really good one. And just some solid Christian support.
Like other couples.
Yeah, like that was one great thing about my church. I made a couple of really good friends, and there was this couple who really was pivotal in helping us. So having them come alongside us and offer us some good Christian. Luckily, in the area, there was a couple of really good Christian therapists. And then there was some other like ministry-based things that we did. That were very helpful, like Celebrate Recovery. Yep. I don't know if that is a thing around here or not. Yep. So I did that a little bit too. My husband did something like that.
Right. Yeah, so when you talked about you came to the point where you're like, we got to get out of California, so was it just money or were there other reasons that you wanted out?
There were so many more reasons for us to move that God knew than we knew in the moment. It was more like an urgency, like we know we need to do this. We're not going to be able to sustain this. We're getting more and more in over our heads financially, constant financial struggle. The political scene was just insane. Like they were pushing vaccines, like they wanted this is political. I don't know if I can say that.
No, get political. We love it.
I can get political.
We love controversy.
But they wanted
controversy.
They were like, they started they took away medical free exemptions for medical and religious exemptions for vaccinations in California, and that was a huge deal. I mean, I was down at the state house picketing that, and they're just. I mean, we had water limits, like, because California has been in drought forever. Apparently, California has weather now, like it rains there now, apparently, for the last 4 years, but it never rained. It was always drought when I was there.
Right.
So, I mean, you're just so regulated. If in our household, and I'm sure it's still the same way now, if you had so much water consumption, you would be fined. Like, and you're taxed for this, taxed for that. And my husband works in Allen County, but we live in Huntington County, so he pays the double county tax. Still way less than we're paying in California for income tax. So it's just,
so it was multiple reasons.
It was a lot of reasons, but then we moved here, and we moved away from everybody. All of our family, his family totally moved up to Washington State. His mom has a beautiful cabin up there in the redwoods and the Deception Pass.
Oh, wow.
Pacific Northwest. She owns 40 acres of woods. It's gorgeous.
Wow.
But even then, the Lord told us, no, you're not going to buy 5 acres from her and put a house on it. That's not what you're doing. He really needed to get us kind of separated from everything and everybody and bring us over here, and it bonded us like never before.
And you think that was the reason? Like, do you think the reason that God was speaking you to move to Indiana was? Yeah.
Like, there was so much still more in my marriage that God had for us that would not have, I didn't even know. Like, we weren't even in that huge crisis mode that we were in years before that we had worked so hard to get out of. There was so much more that God was doing. And the relationship that he set up for my kids here, and just all of the huge homeschool community in the area is so rich. And then, we've been doing classical conversations for homeschool since 2014, so 10 years. And there's a nice classical conversations community here that we were able to just jump right into, and that really helped as well. So, yeah, the Lord, I know, wanted me and my husband to bond and wrestle. You know,
Right.
God uses those times of tension and hardship to really bond you.
And if you only have each other to count on, I mean,
Right. But before we had grandparents, like we had my mother and his mom. At one point, they were both within 2 miles of our house, which sounds amazing. And I have a great relationship with my mother-in-law. I love her to death. And my mom, too. Well, we do now have a great relationship. But the Lord really just needed us to separate and come together and lay roots, our own roots,
Right.
and figure things out. And like, so when we first moved here, we actually moved to Roanoke. He got a job in Warsaw, because he can only find a temp job when he first moved here. No one's like, you can only get a temp job, but he got it. But it was at the Zimmer. And my husband's like, no, I'm not going to stay here. I'm just going to be a number. I'm hearing that temps never get hired on. So then he worked in Pearston for 2 years, but we rented like the crappiest trailer in Roanoke. Now Roanoke is, I'm really embarrassed to say it, but we took a huge pay cut when we moved here. My husband, before we moved, I'm so sorry. My phone's going off. He was working like 7 days a week. He was making tons of money. And when we moved here, we took, I think, a $5 or $6 pay cut.
Yeah.
And we rented. I had never experienced a slumlord ever until we moved here. Like, I was like going to wash the wall behind the stove and my hand fell through it. Like,
Oh, my.
It was awful. When I first got here, as I was working through all of the mess with prosperity gospel, and I'm like, Lord, really? We moved here and I'm in this trailer?
Yeah.
And I've never lived in a trailer before in my life. And so I was really struggling with my faith when we moved here.
How were your kids with it?
So we moved here. My oldest, who's going to be 20 next month, he was starting freshman year that fall in 2018. We moved here in July. Well, my husband came up a month before us, and he's like, I got to find us somewhere to live.
Right.
His mom came with him, and they drove across the country in her camper, and they stayed at Timberlake.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For like a month. The plan was for us to come out 2 weeks later, because he left in June, and he's like, you can't come yet. There's like nowhere for you to go, and there's this thing called humidity. Like in California. I was like, we're going to be fine. Like, I don't even care if we stay in tents. He's like, no, hun.
It's hot.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And him and I, at that point, that was so hard. We were both stressed out. We had been separated for a month. We were kind of at each other's throats. Like, there was so much tension leading up to this. And I was like, well, not understanding why things were not happening in my timeline. We agreed on 2 weeks, and it's been a month. And then I come, and he's like, I found the trailer with the best kitchen that I could. And he was so excited. And I was like, no, I love you. I love you, babe. I love you so much. But I was just kind of like, what is happening? But we grew so much. And we stayed in that trailer for just about 2 years. Or it was 2 years, I think. 2 Christmases in that house. And I have some really good memories of that house. That awful, awful house.
What was the biggest adjustment?
Oh, that humid? No.
Yeah, other than the humidity in Indiana.
Yeah, so we moved here, and then our truck of stuff came 2 weeks later, and I had to unload it because he had to go to work.
Right.
So it's me and these teens unloading it in something called humidity, and I'm like, oh, my Lord, I'm going to die. It's so hot. What is this sweat? Because in California, it's very dry heat.
Right.
So, yeah, that move was really hard.
Okay.
But it was like culture shock to me. Like, everything here seemed slower. Everyone was super kind. Like, the first week I was here, both of our moms were here, so I was okay. The week after they left, I'm at Walmart, and I'm getting a Pepsi, and this sweet little old lady was like, oh, honey girl, you don't want to drink that. And I'm in line by myself. And she's like, I had an addiction to those Cokes for it. It was Pepsi because I'm a Pepsi drinker and not a Coke drinker. But she's like, it's a Coke to her, right? Because that's how people talk, I guess.
Yeah.
I was addicted to Cokes for so long, and they're so bad for you, and I finally gave it up. You don't want to do that. And I cried.
Did you buy it?
I did.
Good.
And I cried in my car, in my minivan, and I drank my Pepsi. Because this sweet little old lady cared about me, and she talked to me. Like in California, you don't really.
You don't talk to each other?
No, you don't. So the fact that this sweet little old lady was just talking to me, I don't know. Both of our moms had left. I was so raw. It was the hardest thing that we ever did was to move here, but it was the most amazing thing. So.
Yeah. How hard was it to find a church? That
has been rough. I kind of talked about this before a little bit, but again, coming out of my church, I had a lot of things that I was trying to figure out, and the Lord he really guided me. He pointed out what was going on. I found some resources on prosperity gospel. I'd never really heard of it. And I'm like, this is what it was. And just some of the damage that had been done in that church setting and the healing. And then coming here, struggling with, I thought you said right. This, Lord. And I thought you said that. And this is where we are. And just feeling so lost. We didn't go to church right away. And again, my husband, he was back and forth about, he loves the Lord and he knows the word. But that community, that corporate, not punishment, corporate setting of church. I don't know what it's, I always mix up my words. That's something about me.
That is not Life Church. We do not have corporal punishment here.
So we were in Roanoke, and so we started going to ECC.
Okay.
And Dennis Miller he's got such a teacher's heart. I have never seen a pastor with such a gifting for teaching. He's a teacher. And we loved how being homeschoolers. Yeah. We loved how he'd put charts up there. But come 2020, the world lost its mind, and everything for a little bit went online, and we kind of just stayed in that for a while. And then we moved to Huntington in 2020. And so we didn't want to drive all the way, as awesome as Dennis was. But it's also a huge church. So my husband loved that we could go to church and just zip on right out. Right. I like to try and stay and linger and maybe talk to people, but I don't know anybody here. Right? The only people I know is through our CC community. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't know anybody because we were so new. Then we moved here, decided not to go to ECC anymore because we didn't want to drive. We had tried a handful of churches here and there, mostly just not attending or attending online because, again, I was kind of lost. And I've always kind of been more of the spiritual leader in our home, but my husband is continuing to grow and step into that. So we went to the Well, and I like the Well. I have nothing against it at all. We just were being very inconsistent, going and not going. My kids love the youth group there. They still go there. Well, my youngest goes there. And my 14-year-old and my 16-year-old is now going back there. But me and my husband kind of like to hang out on Saturdays. Like, that's kind of our date day because he works nights. And so I'm always at home during the week with the kids, and my husband doesn't get home till 11:30. So, and all day, we're doing school or I'm working. So I don't really get to see him much until Saturday. So Saturday is kind of like Saturday night, especially. It's kind of our like unspoken date night. So when we have to get up and go to church earlier in the day, we kind of were like, let's just sleep or let's just watch it online. We're falling into that. So we tried Life Church because you guys were later, a little bit later. And it was, I think it was in 2020. You guys were upstairs. And I think we had came to maybe 2 or 3 services, not back to back. Again, it's awful. It is what it is. Not that I stepped away from my faith. I was doing things at home and watching a lot of online stuff. But I just was not feeling it because the church experience I had been in for so long has made me a little bit weary of churches. And I'm overanalyzing. And I'm like, well, I don't know about this, or I don't know about that, or this doesn't feel like home. And my husband's like, whatever you want to do. But he really liked Life Church. And I was like, I don't think we're feeling it. So we mostly stuck with the Well. My kids love Nick, the youth pastor over there. He's great. And then I started facilitating a Bible study, CBS Bible study, which last summer I decided I wanted to do that. So I got the training to become a facilitator or a core leader and open up a branch here in Huntington because the closest one is in Warsaw. And Kim at the Cafe of Hope has been amazing. And we ended up being able to book every one of our weeks here at the cafe in room C. And it was kind of like the Lord kept saying, listen to your husband, go back to Life Church. Because my husband had been saying it. Let's just go to the church like nearly across the street from us. We can walk here because we live right over here.
Oh, wow.
We can walk here in 5 minutes. But he kind of kept saying, let's just go to that one. Let's just go to that one. And I wasn't being me and more of this. I wasn't letting him lead, and I didn't even realize that. And then doing CBS here every Wednesday, I was like, oh, yeah, maybe we should do that. And my husband's like, yeah, maybe we should. So we've been coming since October, and you were doing the Live Differently. Yeah, my kids really like it, too.
Yeah. And so what do you think has been the biggest challenge of, because obviously you homeschooled for a reason. So what has been the biggest challenge of homeschooling your kids and the greatest benefit of it?
Oh, gosh. Homeschooling is the most beautiful thing, and at times can be the most hardest, ugly thing. Like, I grew up really broken, so sometimes I don't handle things as well as I should, or the Lord just teaches me so much through my kids, and I learn so much. I have really recaptured my own education through homeschooling the kids. One of the biggest struggles has been the financial sacrifice of our mission to homeschool our kids. But having classical conversation has really matured my faith, literally matured my faith.
Well, can you explain to everybody else? I mean, maybe nobody knows what classical conversation is, because you've said it a couple different times, but I'm not sure.
Sorry, it's been a huge part of the last 10 years of my life.
Right. That's why I said you should probably tell people.
Okay, so Classical Conversations is a homeschooling organization company that you can open up communities. We have communities all over the world, all over the nation. There's like 6 communities or something in Fort Wayne. We have one here in Huntington. So from 4 years old all the way through, actually now it's post high school. You can get dual credits. So the really cool thing about CC is it has curriculum for all ages. So I never had to, we did homeschool for 5 years before I found CC. And being ADHD, I'm like, oh, let's try this. Oh, let's try that. Let's try all these things. And I was like so scattered and trying to do all the things. It was not really coming together well until I found CC. That gave me that streamlined look. Like we joined when my oldest was in 5th grade, and I could look at the catalog. It's called a magalog because it's like a magazine, and it's also a yearly curriculum catalog. Homeschoolers, we love books, okay? We like books. Yeah. So I could look at this magalog, and I could see, okay, this is where my kids are going to be every year. And this is, and by the time you hit 7th grade, everything's spelled out for you. Like, read this book, do this work, and they teach you. They're all about equipping parents to be the best homeschool parents that they can be. Right. And the mission of Classical Conversations is to know God and make him known. So we have this mission that God is at the center of everything, and we learn in the classical model of education, which is a specific way of learning. So, yeah.
Which is?
The classical model is actually how, like, Aristotle and all them, they are founding fathers. They're all, like, really classically educated. Martin Luther King was classically educated. But it has 3 stages of education. So you have the grammar stage for those little. They're like sponges. They're going to soak up that information. They're going to learn things in song. Like we all learn the ABCs, right, in a song. So for 4 years old through 12, you're learning in a fun you're learning memory work in a fun pole parrot kind of a way. Not pole parrot, but singing songs, repetition. You're memorizing facts. Right. You may not know, You know, like you're going to have a 4-year-old who's going to have memory work, who's going to memorize the circumference of a circle and the equation to do that. But they're not going to understand what it means. But when they get older, they're going to have that memory peg to draw upon, and they're going to be like, oh, wait, the song goes like this. And now I understand how to do this now that I'm in 7th grade and I'm learning geometry. Or I'm
so at 50, can you teach me that song so I know what a circumference of a circle is?
I don't know if I can right now. I haven't been in the grammar stage for...
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's what I'm saying. It's just there's a lot that goes into it. That's why I wanted to make sure.
So they have the
people
grammar stage.
understand.
I'm over talking about it. They have the grammar stage, and then you have the dialectic stage where you're questioning everything. You know, you got your 9-year-olds, your upper elementary, your middle schoolers, where they're questioning everything and they're asking questions and maybe questioning you. So that's where they start to take that knowledge, and then they're going to gain some understanding. And then they're going to have the rhetorical stage, which could be anywhere from 7th grade all the way through high school. Where they're going to learn something all the way, know it deeply, and pretty much know it well enough to be able to teach it back to other people. That's when you're being rhetorical. You can know it so well and give it back. And so in CC, it's about not really what you're learning. It's the art of knowing how to learn.
Yeah. So how have you done, because we're getting close to the end, so how have you done from a community standpoint? Was it hard to find community? Was it hard to find friends? Was it hard to find?
No, because of CC.
Okay.
And CC has been like church to me. I mean, there's so much faith-based stuff in it, and just the material that you go over. And I was learning right alongside my kids, and then I would tutor classes. So as a tutor, I'm going to have to learn the material for our once-a-week class that we do. So as you again, get more equipped, become a tutor, become a director, or I was even higher than that. You just read really good literature. It's so literature-based, and a lot of really good faith is at the center of everything, especially as you get into the middle school and high school year. So that was a lot of that church that I needed. And then we were able
I just didn't know if it was hard to find friends. Was it hard to find, when you guys moved?
I don't know what we'd have
anybody?
done if we didn't have CC, because I was able to go from CC in California and find communities here and just plug in.
Right.
So that fit that really encompassed the community for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead.
No, but then you started this group, this small group that you're doing here.
Community Bible studies.
Yes.
Which is also
so
a
what
global
made
thing.
you want to do that then? So were you still looking for other type of community that you weren't getting from the whole
Well, coming through all the things that I came through in my faith, one thing was clear was I was not, I was reading a lot of Christian self-help books a lot. I was doing devotionals and those kinds of things, but I wasn't really studying the word for the word. It was always more of a, I'm going to run to that self-help book. That's just what I do. But I needed to learn the word. And if I would have known the word, I wouldn't have fallen into so many of those traps of prosperity gospel and all of those things, because I couldn't speak in tongues, and that traumatized me in my church, not being, I was broken and I was not right. And there was Satan within me because I couldn't speak in tongues. These are some of the lies. And that's what the Bible says, to know the word so that you can spot false teaching. And I met a homeschool friend in in California through a homeschool group. She ended up doing CC, but she's actually from Tennessee. They kept their house in Tennessee, moved out to California to make a ton of money as a lineman, paid off their house in Tennessee, and moved back. So we were friends in California for 5 years. She lives in Tennessee now. She moved back 2 years before I moved here, so she's 6 hours away. And she kept telling me about community Bible study and how they go once a week. And, she has her Bible study book, and it's a workbook, but she has one also of the same material for each of her kids. So they have Bible study. For example, this year we did Ruth, 1 and 2 Samuel, and we finished Colossians tomorrow. And so she's doing the same one, except instead of Colossians, I think she's doing Ephesians. But, her high schooler has a book, her middle school girl has a book, her sixth grader has a book. They all have their own book, but they're studying the same books of the Bible. And I'm like, yes, I want that. I want my kids to have that. Because although there's Christian values and stuff in our homeschool curriculum, we need to be more in the Word. And I knew, the Lord really convicted my heart. These are some of the mistakes you made, and you need to be in the Word. And I really did miss that community aspect of having some women in my life to come alongside me, to mentor me. I've had I've had the blessing of a wonderful mother-in-law. And then I had 2 friends in California that were older than me. It's good to have friends of different ages. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's biblical, I think. So that's why I wanted CBS. But I knew 2 years ago it was in Warsaw. And I'm like, oh, gosh, I'm just so busy with tutoring and directing and trying to homeschool. I don't think I could drive to Warsaw every single week. And I definitely don't want to do it online. So it was just like a seed planted. And then this last summer, the Lord is like, you need to slow your roll with CC. CC is amazing. Love CC, people, okay? But it was over important in my life. It was too much. It had become almost like an idol. The Lord was telling me, and my stress levels were telling me I needed to just take some step back. And he was calling me to rest and to make the important things. And so I just reached out to CBS, and they put me in touch with the Northern Indiana director, and I interviewed, and I went through training, and it's been amazing. So yeah, the Warsaw community over there has been a CBS community for 20 years, and they have like 132 kids in their program, all the way from babies through middle school, and a bunch of women. So it's just 5 in my Huntington group, because I haven't been as well connected to a church, which I really hope to change here at Life Church and dig in more. So yeah, but they started out really small 20 years ago too. But just to be in the Word, because with CBS, I almost brought the book, but I didn't. You're in the Word 7 days a week. And although you're reading Samuel, you're like all over the authors of this curriculum know the Word, and so they're able to find those New Testament, Old Testament connections. And I just have learned so much.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if you could give any parting words of wisdom, what would it be?
Oh, I don't have wisdom.
You just gave a lot of wisdom.
Like if you could say anything to moms out there, words of wisdom. Young moms, how about that? You've been through the stages, you've been through life. What words of wisdom to young mothers?
Get in the Word, be in the Word, be about the Word, and make sure that you can self-care so you can care for what the Lord has given you.
Yeah.
Whether it's homeschooling, whether it's not, whatever it is. The Lord, you have your things.
Yeah.
But be in the Word, feed your soul, be in connection with the Lord, no matter where you're going to church. You can have that, right? Because we are the church.
Right.
I'm not saying you shouldn't go to church. We should all go to church. But yeah, be in the Word and self-care so you can care for those.
Yeah. Well, again, I've just been super interesting to hear your story and see how God, because again, I think it's cool to see what you grew up with, how God's using you today, how he's taken your marriage and grown it, stronger, and how, through homeschooling your kids and finding that foundation of, where God fits in the midst of all of education, right? And how he can be the center of all of that and the things that we do. And just to come back and hear you talk about like how God has taken you from somebody who was trying to fill a hole in their heart, seeking him, to now helping other people head off that problem, before instead of going through it. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing. It's been really good. So when this comes out, if you see this on Facebook, like, share, or comment. That way we can get it out on other people's feed. And again, do you guys come to first or second service? Second service.
We like a little extra sleep on Sunday.
Yeah, even though we changed it now and you got the half hour earlier.
It's all right. We'll deal with it.
Make sure you come up and say hi. And again, just to get to know them, their family. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.